Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our preview for the Blacklist Season 9, Episode 12. This episode is titled The Chairman, which mostly just makes me think of Iron Chef. But anyway, this episode is going to bring us a lot of drama. It seems like we're going to get more information and discovery about the tracker,
Yep.
Harold Cooper, and the blackmailer. These are
Yes.
things we all want answers to, so is the show going to give us them?
No, of course they're not. We're only mid-season here. We're not going to get anything yet, but
Yeah.
hopefully we're going to get some movement. And I'm all right as long as we end up getting to an answer at some point.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of fun things to talk through here. There's a lot of interesting back and forth about where the tracker could be. How did it get on Liz? What is the impact of all of this? So we'll of course talk through all of that. But before we do, hit that subscribe button because we know the Blacklist is on hiatus this week, but don't worry. Next week, the chairman will arrive. We do not want you guys to miss that review. So hit that subscribe button so you also can check out our coverage of This Is Us, Killing Eve, Snowfall. So many great things are happening right now at the channel.
New Blacklist videos are up here every single Friday, regardless of the show being on or not. So yeah, subscribe.
All right, so the tracker, understandably, is going to be taking center stage for
Yep.
a lot of us. Like, who cares about the Blacklist so much as this?
Yeah, and I'm really glad that they are going in this direction because, I mean, they very well could have given us the big cliffhanger of this tracker that's in Liz's grave somewhere and then gave
Yeah.
us like a one-off Blacklist. But they didn't do that.
Yeah.
We are here, and it looks like Red is gonna be taking these extreme measures, which we already heard him kind of talk about
Yeah.
last episode. He wants to exhume Liz's body to be able to see where the tracker is.
This is the sort of big question mark / concern I have for all of this with Reddington is like maybe he can get answers about the tracker if he exhumes Liz's body, but at the same time, is that really going to be enough for him to actually understand how it got there? Like, unless there's like some really specific fingerprint record of like, oh, this person touched a casket at this time.
Yeah, or maybe it could be something on the tracker. Maybe there's, I don't know, a serial number, a fingerprint, or something that he can figure it out from that. Who makes it? Who supplied it? I don't know. It's tough to know what he's going to actually find, but he knows that if he doesn't exhume her body, he's going to find nothing.
If you guys remember on this past episode of the Blacklist, in that review, which we have linked in the description, there was a theory I proposed that is completely insane, but I'm still sticking to it, which is that at some point, this tracker ends up back in Liz's grave after the fact. It was taken away before she did the autopsy, which is why we didn't end up seeing anything come out that was a little bit fishy with this autopsy. So I've been trying, here or there to sort of put two and two together on how a lot of this could make sense. And by all means, this is a very difficult puzzle to put together.
Yeah, it is. So, like, we have had a lot of discussions off camera of
Yeah.
just how did this tracker get into the grave? Because whatever clothes she was wearing the night that she died were not put into the grave with her, and
Yeah.
they were all taken off of her. So that means that somewhere along the line, this tracker needed to be put on her either through her clothes that she was wearing to be buried in, somewhere in the casket,
Yeah.
in a piece of jewelry on her body, or it was like something that was inserted into her long ago and she's been being tracked for a long time. And I mean, like, we've seen online somewhere in her scar,
Yeah.
could be in the back of her neck, could be like in between her fingers, toes, somewhere that the pathologist wouldn't have seen while doing an autopsy. The biggest sort of question mark that I've seen online is really like, is Liz in this grave at all?
I think she is. I think anyone out there who's doing the Liz is still alive theories, I understand. This show has done this to us already. I get it. But she did. I'm sorry, she's
I just
dead.
gotta say, if somebody like dropped the ball this hard
Yeah.
from the pathologist's office to the funeral home, like for funeral service, the funeral director is with the body quite a bit.
Yeah.
So they're like dressing, washing, doing their hair, doing their makeup. You do a check of the casket before you then close it, put it in the van, transfer it to the grave. Like, there's not that many people that would be there to do something like that outside of like a funeral director or somebody who maybe dropped off a piece of jewelry that they're just like, they want to make sure she stays in the grave. The motivation is the thing that's kind of killing me on it.
Okay. I may have had a light bulb in this very second, but it may also be a light bulb that's flickering on and off. So we're just gonna roll with some of this. So I'm gonna pick up your jewelry theory here because I think the jewelry idea is fascinating for a number of different reasons. Like, let's say, for example, this tracker was put, and and forgive me if I don't remember every single piece of jewelry Liz was wearing the night that she was dead, but let's say she was wearing a necklace, and it's a necklace that she just really happens to like, and let's just say that tracker happened to be on her the night she died and she didn't know about it. So let's say she died, we saw her, well, we saw what seemed to be her on the autopsy table, and there was that bag of just like evidence or things that were tied to her in some way that there was that weird close-up on it at that start of this past episode. Maybe that necklace was in that bag, and then after the fact, maybe someone said, oh, Liz loved that necklace. That's something let's make sure that's on her body when she's dead. And maybe this is where we get really crazy. Maybe whoever put that tracker on her never was even really thinking it was going to end up in the ground with her. And that's just kind of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be as easy as that it was something that was on a piece of jewelry on her in life. And yeah, after she was being prepared to be put in the casket, jewelry goes on people all the time. Yeah. Favorite ring, favorite necklace, earrings, whatever it is goes with them. And then, whoever was tracking her just didn't care anymore because she's no longer alive. So they're just like, oh, well, I guess it's buried. There's also this theory going around that whoever was tracking Liz decided to throw that tracker into the casket or into the grave to just hide the evidence that they were tracking them, because who's going to unbury her?
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is if there is a crime that is attached to a death or something suspicious, whenever new evidence comes up and they need to exhume a body, they can. So it's not a very smart place to hide evidence. And we just saw this over on Animal Kingdom as well, where Pope buried somebody and left evidence. It was like, I don't need this. No one's ever going to dig them up. And here we are. It has happened. The body has been, unearthed with this evidence that he threw in there. It's not really the greatest move, but it's a move, and maybe somebody just thought that. But I mean, when evidence comes up, this could happen.
I think it's reasonable that if someone just thought it's going to remain there forever, like, I understand that, but there's two big questions that I need whoever this person is to have thought about. Number one, wasn't there a way to turn the tracker off before it goes in there so nobody would ever be able to detect anything? I don't know if that's possible. I am not an expert on trackers, but you know what I am an expert on? Lord of the Rings. And here's what happens in Lord of the Rings. When you have an unwanted piece of jewelry, you throw it into the fires of Mount Doom, and that way it is destroyed forever. Why did no one take this tracker, whether it's on jewelry, whether it was implanted in Liz's skin or whatever else? Why are you not just throwing it into the fire? Do something with it so that it just doesn't exist anymore.
I think two things have happened here. One of two things.
Okay.
I think either it was in a piece of jewelry that they did not expect to go into the grave with her. And then they were like, well, you know what are we going to do? We'll just leave it, sort of thing. Or I think, which is what I actually think, is that it was inserted into her somewhere and there was no way for them to get that tracker out of her because she was at the pathologist's office, then she was at the funeral home, and now she's in the grave. And there was just no way to get it out. That they were like, you know what? it'll stop working eventually. No battery goes on forever. It will just stop and we'll just, forget about it.
Like, that is probably the thing that is the most realistic in the world of the Blacklist. I mean, let's think about this here. We're on a show where you have characters who are, like, implanting people's memories. Like, why would there not be somebody who is implanting some sort of tracking chip onto Liz?
Well, the thing that this episode is going to cause is grief. And Wrestler is going to be the person who's going to be hurting the most from her body actually being exhumed, and understandably so. It's a very difficult decision to have something like that happen. It's not going to be easy for Reddington either. It's not going to be easy for anyone if she's actually in the grave, which I think she is.
I think it's just Wrestler. I understand why he's going to be hurting, especially since we had that scene with him at her grave earlier this season. But I think he also hopefully we'll kind of come to understand down the road here that if there is some sort of additional nefarious reason why Liz is gone, like, he's going to want to know that in the end, I think, as much as anyone. I think it's just like the road there, especially for someone who is, who's been an addict like him. It's not going to be an easy road. Like, that's the thing I'm the most worried about right now, is that he's going to end up giving back in and he's just going to fall back into these just old and dangerous habits.
Okay, so we're also going to be getting some movement in this episode about Harold Cooper and the blackmail and everything that's going on. And it is about time because, like, he had that whole scene where he found the dead body and then it was just like nothing has happened since then. It's just business as usual.
So it's mentioned in the synopsis that Cooper makes contact with the blackmailer. So what do you think Panna Baker's going to say when Cooper reaches out to her? No, it's like, I know I'm still dying on that hill, but the reality is just that all we know is that there's a blackmailer. We haven't really gotten that much evidence. I mean, there was a voice distorter when Cooper heard them, so theoretically it could have been anybody.
Yeah, it could have been. And I mean, we're not going to have answers on Friday, that much I know.
Okay, well, we will, of course, be back to discuss the Chairman, review it. So hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any of our coverage on that and any of the other shows we're doing here. Thank you guys. We will see you here next time.